for the past 2 years, the gaming industry has faced a staggering number of layoffs and studio closures. And this isn't just some small blip on a radar, this is a serious cause for concern. It's a pattern that's affecting even some of the biggest names in the business. Developers, artists, designers, teams that once crafted the games we love have been reduced in size or disbanded altogether, sometimes even after only releasing a few games. Now, like me, you might be thinking, why is this all happening? I wanted to take a closer look at this because I think something a little deeper might be happening. So between 2023 and 2024, the gaming industry has seen layoffs on a scale that have been absolutely brutal. According to GamesBeat, there have been over 10,000 layoffs in the industry. And companies are still struggling to manage rising development costs and declining player engagement. From small indie studios to AAA giants, almost no one is being spared. In 2023, BioWare laid off 50 employees, including veterans who had been with the company for over a decade. Fast forward to early 2024, and EA, BioWare's parent company, announced another round of layoffs, causing work on the next Mass Effect and Dragon Age to stall. CD Projekt Red, known for Cyberpunk 2077 and the Witcher series, also slashed nearly 10% of its workforce by 2024. This is despite the resurgence of players even after the Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty expansion. It's crazy, but even success stories aren't immune to the challenges of a high-cost industry. So what's behind all these closures and cutbacks? Well, there's a bunch of reasons, actually. First, many studios have been victims of poor game performance. When highly anticipated games fail to meet sales expectations or receive mixed reviews, companies find themselves with fewer resources to sustain their massive teams. Take Forspoken, from Square Enix's Luminous Productions, and Redfall, a once anticipated title from Arcane Studios, which is part of Bethesda. Both were expected to perform better, but unfortunately ended up underwhelming both critically and commercially. Another factor is the rising cost of game development. Creating a high-quality game now costs more than ever. From paying top talent to the increasing complexity of modern games, budgets for AAA titles have ballooned to tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. When these games don't perform, companies have no choice but to downsize. And obviously, we cannot forget the largest elephant in the room: COVID. It's the post-pandemic reality. During COVID-19, gaming industry experienced a boom. Everyone was forced to be online. And with no other choice or form of engagement, this gave the gaming industry an absolutely insane boost in revenue. Then, of course, the world returned back to normal, and now the games have seen significant drops in active players. Games that expanded during the pandemic, like Fall Guys and Among Us, have had declining engagement, affecting companies that heavily invested in maintaining player bases. In 2023, we saw studios like Volition shut down completely after their Saints Row reboot failed to meet their expectations. Telltale Games faced a second closure in 2023 after trying to rebuild post-2018. However, the wave didn't stop there. Also in 2023, Firaxis, known for XCOM and Civilization, announced layoffs, even after releasing the critical success but commercial failure that was Marvel's Midnight Suns. In early 2024, Remedy Entertainment, the studio behind Control and Alan Wake 2, laid off a significant portion of its workforce. Despite the critical success of their games, the financials just didn't add up. They cited increased development costs, longer production cycles, and player expectations as major challenges. Epic Games, a studio once thought untouchable thanks to the success of Fortnite, continued to shed employees throughout 2023 and 2024, laying off approximately 900 workers in 2023. Take-Two, the parent company of Rockstar Games, the creators of GTA 5, also let go of another 600 employees in 2024, citing the need to streamline costs and focus on core projects. Even juggernauts like Epic or Take-Two aren't immune to the changing tides of the industry. So what does the future hold for these studios and these industries as a whole? If games continue to underperform, we may see even more consolidation and studio closures. Smaller studios, unable to weather the financial storm, could be bought out by larger companies or shut down entirely. Even AAA studios will likely focus on fewer, more refined releases, potentially reducing risks. We might also see the middle-tier studio all but disappear. With fewer publishers willing to take risks on moderately budgeted games, the industry could split between mega blockbuster titles from giant studios and indie developers working with minimal resources. That middle ground, that sweet spot for innovation, could be lost entirely. However, indie developers remain a bright spot. These smaller studios often work with tighter budgets but more creative freedom. We've seen incredible success from games like Hades 2, Palworld, and the recent surprise hit The Plucky Squire. These games prove that smaller teams can still deliver award-winning experiences without the financial burden of a AAA production. The gaming industry is at a crossroads. As costs rise and players become harder and harder to please, studios are going to have to evolve, or they're going to have to face the reality of shrinking teams and closing doors. Whether it's streamlining production, taking fewer risks, or investing in smaller, more agile teams, companies will need to rethink how they operate to survive. But here's the thing. That's not everything. Thousands of developers face layoffs, studios are shutting their doors, and many companies are still finding ways to soften the blow. Yeah, when a game fails, not all is lost, at least not for the company. In many cases, studios can write off massive losses as tax deductions. Development costs, unsold inventory, even the value of assets like intellectual property, all of these can be claimed as business losses, which reduces the company's tax bill. Now, before I go on, I really want to clarify. It's common practice when companies that face a large-scale layoff or a closure to utilize tax write-offs for operating losses, asset devaluation, or research and development expenses. But confirming the specifics would require access to their detailed financial statements or tax filings, which are not always publicly available or easy to access. So take everything from this point forward with a grain of salt. To me, it's fairly evident that these corporations are more than willing to dump as many studios and employees as they feel necessary. Let's take a look at the case of Embracer Group in 2023. After a cancelled $2 billion deal sent shockwaves through the company, they laid off employees and closed several studios, including Volition, known for Saints Row. They were also forced to restructure or sell off major parts of their companies such as Gearbox, the developers behind the Borderlands series. Because of all of this, it's likely that Embracer was also able to leverage these financial losses as deductions, easing their tax burden. Similarly, in 2024, CD Projekt Red, despite laying off nearly 10% of its workforce, was likely able to offset some of the financial strain. Cyberpunk 2077 was being touted as the next innovation in gaming. And after the quite underwhelming performance as well as the ongoing development costs for Cyberpunk updates, the company most likely used tax write-offs, specifically including research and development tax credits. This might have been to cushion the blow from their layoffs. In another massive case, Microsoft's layoffs of 10,000 employees in 2023 included heavy cuts to gaming studios like 343 Industries and Bethesda. However, those layoffs most likely came with a significant financial relief through tax write-offs, including the write-down of failed projects like Redfall. This also likely won't be too different of a scenario from what will happen to the recent release and shutdown of the game Concord. Microsoft and Sony, corporate giants, will assuredly be able to mitigate much of the financial fallout using these losses to reduce their taxable income. Failed projects often qualify for deductions, including R&D credits, especially if the game was breaking new ground. Some studios even use these tax breaks to offset profits from previous or future years. So while the developers may suffer, the company itself can bounce back, at least on paper. Alright, seriously though, even with the tax breaks, the future of the industry remains uncertain. If underperforming games continue to dominate the landscape, we may see more closures, more layoffs, and more consolidation. But for the studios and mega corporations, the ability to write off their failures as tax deductions basically provides an endless amount of lives. It feels like a cheat code almost. So while the headlines scream layoffs and closures, behind the scenes, the real game might just be how well these companies play the tax code. Alright guys, that's all I got. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Peace!